Welcome to my channel. This is Hot Mess and Hot Glue. My name is Lynn. Let's have some fun. In our first project, we're going to take this little pumpkin that came in a Target. It was like a tiered tree starter set, and it came with this like pink color, almost like a peach color actually. Anyway, I didn't want that color, so I painted over that portion in white, and overall there wasn't a whole lot that I really wanted to do to this pumpkin. On this portion here off camera, I was just kind of playing around, and what I did was I took some Waverly antiquing wax and a small paintbrush that you see here, and I just went over the stem and the ribs to kind of just accentuate that detail a little bit. Now I got this really cool pack of scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby, and it has all these different wood grains. Now this paper, it's actually a heavy duty, so it's more durable than cardstock, and so because this is so thick, when I go to apply it to the pumpkin, I'm gonna pull out good old Marge, also known as Mod Podge. However, I did add like a little small blue pumpkin to the front of it, and I don't know what happened to that footage. I searched and searched for it, and typically what happens is if I have to stop recording for some reason, I just get in the zone, and sometimes I just forget to hit record again. And so likely that's what I did. Actually, it looks like I'm about to use a glue stick, but I don't. Okay, I did use Mod Podge. I just wanted to make sure. Again, because this is so strong, the paper, I was not worried at all that I would mess up. And I love the antique wax on the ribs of this. I love that it just kind of made them pop. It was a little bit more subtle and neutral prior to me doing that. This next project here is another real simple one. I'm taking a plaque that came with the same tiered tray set, and I was just kind of playing around with different stains. I had this bare water-based one, and it was so light you really couldn't see it, and so then I did a small portion with antique wax, and I really liked the depth and the darker color in that, and so I decided to use the antique wax all over the perimeter of this little frame. That way, when I go to add the white paper to cover that pumpkin sign, it just kind of pops off the paper just a little bit more, and it stands out, and it'll kind of match the fact that I used the antiquing wax on the other pumpkin as well. Now to cover this pumpkin, I had this really pretty vinyl paper that I got from Hobby Lobby, and it's a matte color, or it's a matte finish in a really almost, I want to say it's like a muted navy blue. I just really love this color, and I do like to use either vinyl sometimes or contact paper. I won't typically use vinyl as often just because the vinyl can be a little bit more expensive. Now, when I'm trimming paper off of a cutout like this, I usually go through with my sandpaper. However, what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of running my finger over it, and I'm creating a really nice and visible crease. Then I go in with a really sharp X-Acto knife. I usually will make sure it's a brand new blade, and it will slice through that like butter. So you just have to be careful not to cut your fingers. Now, when I find something that's really cute and it's got like a little design, and if I'm gonna paint over it or something and I want to mimic that design again, I'm not great at freehand, and so I love to just cheat, grab my tracing paper. I will trace over the image or a shape or a font, and if I want to, then later on I can use it somewhere else, or I can reapply it to the project that I'm doing. So on this one it was blank, and so you see me taking that and transferring it onto this pumpkin, and then later on I actually take an image that was on an item and then put it right back on. It'll make more sense once we get there. I love this. It kind of reminded me of like the Friends, the way that the Farm Fresh was written. And that's it for this, guys. I mean, it's really just cover this little pumpkin shape, get my paint markers out, and I just think that this is super simple and very cute. On this next one here, you can kind of see the pattern. I'll be using a lot of this blue paint. It's the same blue paint that I've used in a couple other projects, and it's a leftover chalked paint, and I have no idea what the color is. When I was at the store recently, they didn't actually have that can of paint, so it must be much older than I thought. I had this really pretty scrapbook paper, and I used it in a recent video when I was doing some window cleans, and I'm just going to go through them because this is a thinner scrapbook paper. I am more comfortable using a glue stick, and it works great for me. I really don't have a problem with it. I do like to use Elmer's or another name brand. I don't typically like to use the Dollar Tree's brand of glue stick. I took a second leaf. As you can see, I painted that one blue, and then just by setting them slightly offset from each other, the blue on the leaf is actually going to just kind of make the blue in that plaid really pop off, and I really like the contrast between the blue and the orange. Using these letters, or this little word plaque that we got from Dollar Tree, I'm going to use that same blue paint, but I'm going to go in and kind of heavily sand over it, and so it will give it a muted color, and it almost looks like chalk. So it's, you know, when you write on a chalkboard and then you wipe it off, it kind of has that white residue. That's what this ends up being reminiscent of, and I really liked it because, again, it's the same color blue, but it's a different finish next to that blue leaf. To get this to stand, I just added a tumbling tower block to the back. It's not the most stable, and so I did have to be, you know, just a little bit careful. So I don't know, I'm just kind of still trying to figure out the best way to get that to stand. Now, this little sign here is probably my favorite, and it was super easy. I took one of these signs from Dollar Tree. I went out to the work shed and I cut it down into 4 blocks. They are 2 inches tall and 1 inch wide. After giving these a full 2 coats, I think, and even some spots on the sides where it's the MDF, that portion always tends to soak up a lot of paint. So that portion, I think, I want to say took actually the 3rd coat, but the front and the back only took 2 coats. Now I'm measuring the middle, so I'm going to measure down to 1 because it's 2 inches tall, so I'm going to go down to 1 inch, and because it is 1 inch wide, I'm going to mark it at the 1/2 inch. And this is where I'm going to adhere the bead, and in between each block there's going to be a natural colored wood bead, but I want to make sure that they're going to be even and that they line up. So in a rare occasion here, I actually took out my ruler and I used it like a big girl. I was proud of myself, and I'm glad I did. This would have been just such a mess. So to hide the hole that the bead has, that's where I put the glue. Now, I kind of wished I had stuck the detail glue tip into the hole to kind of have an additional seepage of glue kind of go to the opposite end and kind of overflow to the other block. I feel like that would have added a little bit more stability because that first block popped off while I was staging all of the decor together. And I mean, the other ones were fine, but I think it's because I used a little bit less glue on that one than the other ones, because I kind of realized second go around I put a little bit on so that it wouldn't seep through on that portion. But when I went to stick the glue into the second hole, I actually put it inside and gave it just a little bit more glue, and that seemed to do better because those ones did not come off. It was an easy fix. Now, I don't always use my Cricut, but I really love my Cricut, so I do like to use it here and there. Of course, if you don't have one, I try to do my best to show you many different options. You can do the trace and transfer with carbon paper. You can freehand, and there's several different options. I really wanted to use this font. It is Autumn Sunshine, and it's just a standard Cricut font. And I'm using the Dollar Tree's transfer paper, and this is the first time I've used the one with the grid on it. And that grid, actually a small portion of it transferred onto this first letter, but I did not have a problem with that happening on any other letter. Even though it's the Dollar Tree's transfer paper, I'm still super cheap. I just used the same piece of transfer paper. And I did that for two reasons. I painted on this surface and I did not want the paint to then peel off. Now, I think this has such a clean and modern look to it. I really like it. I didn't want to distress it. I really enjoy the way that the lettering just kind of stands out with the natural colored beads. This is such a simple project, but it's got to be one of my favorites. So this truck came in this little set up here in the upper right hand corner. So this is where I'm getting all these little pieces. And with that Farm Fresh, I liked that detail. So instead of trying to freehand it, I took my tracing paper and I went over and I just outlined the edge of the truck so that when I go to transfer that image back on, all I have to do is line it up with the outline of the truck, and I know that I'm going to be able to get it to the same position that it is now. So there's my, I think that used to hold like bags of tea, like cold brew tea or something. And now it's holding this random paint that I have no idea what the name is or even how long I've had it, but I really like it. It's such a pretty color. It's it's the closest to the color that I was going for this fall and the blue accents that I wanted to add to home decor. So just going to put the carbon paper on. You always want to make sure that you put it shiny side down. If I forget, basically I'll just take the black carbon paper and I'll put it on my workstation. I'll run my fingernail over it. If it transfers, great, then that's the proper side. And if it doesn't, I flip it over. I do like to typically use a more fine tipped pencil when I'm transferring, so I don't have a ton of leftover carbon. And then I'm using a cream colored paint marker to add the words and a couple little half round beads. I will link the beads in my description box along with those markers. I'm really enjoying these paint markers. I don't even know what the brand is. It's some weird, I don't know. I'm sure they're from China, but the fine tip on these is just really wonderful and I'm happy with these. So I'll make sure to link those, and any other items that I use in the video will be linked down in my description box in case you're interested or want to look into the information behind it. I got this little pack of pumpkins. It came with 4 pumpkins and 4 acorns at Hobby Lobby, with just cute little embellishments. And I want to say it was like $3.99, but I know that I paid it. At the very least, I got 40% off. So I wanted to add these to the back of the truck to give it that blue and orange color contrast. I think this came out just so adorable. It's so cute. Now the beaded garland that you see there in the picture, my friend Megan over at Painted in Distress, she lives in California, and out there they have 99-cent only stores, and they had that garland for $2, and she picked a couple up for me because she's so nice. Now, gotta have a mini rolling pin if we're doing tiered tray decor, so I'm gonna head back to that really pretty plaid scrapbook paper. I only purchased one piece when I picked it up, and when I went back the last 2 times, it's been sold out, and I am just kicking myself. I really wished I had gotten several because I really love the color of this paper. To attach this, just like I do in most of my projects, I'm just going to use a good old glue stick. Now, I go a little heavy and thick because the wood on the mini rolling pins is a little bit more porous than some of the other wood that I will work with. And so I go just a little bit heavier with it, and I kind of rub my hands over it to really make sure that it's getting into kind of the pores of the wood and it's getting a better seal. Again, at my recent Hobby Lobby trip, there were these kind of burlap strips, and they were cut into different patterns. I thought they were stickers, but they're not, which isn't a big deal. I just add a couple dabs of hot glue. Now, I had that one leftover pumpkin from the ones that I put on the trunk. I went over it in white paint because it just looked a little bit better. That orange didn't really go so well. I will also link the mini rolling pins in my description box in case you are interested in those. I absolutely love mini rolling pins. They're just the cutest little thing I've ever seen. So to create this little ladder, I got the ladder itself ready to go. It's in the Christmas section at Hobby Lobby currently. I got it during a 40% off sale. I took off the little Merry Christmas tag that it comes with. Now I did it carefully because come Christmas, I'm gonna wanna use it. Now I wanted to make a little sign that just kind of went along with everything. And the scrap wood that I like to use inside those little kind of like DIY packs that you get in the toy section, they make really good tags or little labels. They have, you know, I was telling Megan the other day, they had a really good option for wheels. So if you want to make something that has wheels, that's a good option. And the tin snips just cut through all of this like butter. I absolutely love them. Again, I'll have that linked. Now, my new favorite stain is this water-based wood stain by Behr, and this is in special walnut, and I don't have to go outside. It has zero odor and it doesn't ruin my paintbrushes, and so I've been absolutely loving it. I am gonna put a small piece of vinyl on this, and vinyl does not typically stick very well when you use a stain. So I'm going over it with Marge to make sure that it has enough of a sticky surface, but not so sticky that I then can't take it off. And so it was a little bit of like a cat and mouse game where I'm kind of touching the surface to make sure that it was tacky, but not too much. Now, this made a huge difference. And in the past, I've tried to put vinyl onto surfaces that have wood stain, and it never works. And this is even small print, you know, there's thin lines. And so I was really impressed. I had very little trouble. Now I'm going to put this on with hot glue, but I'm going to use the teeny tiniest little speck of hot glue because I know for sure I'm going to want to pop this off and do different signs or little, you know, tags or labels as the seasons and the holidays change. But there's just something so simple and cute about this little guy. And I don't know if I was meaning for it to say pumpkin or pumpkins, but it came out as pumpkin. I figured, I bet no one would have even noticed if I hadn't said anything. No, I know people would notice because as crafters, we have an eye for those things. Okay, so this next sign here is another one from Target Dollar Spot. Now, what I love about this is it's an adorable pumpkin shape, but it's got these words, it's got these leaves, and it's $3. I mean, you could get the pumpkin for $1, the give thanks word for $1. I mean, when you break it down, I mean, it's a higher quality than what you may find at Dollar Tree, and you're getting a similar amount, if not maybe even a little bit more. I'm going to go back to using this special walnut wood stain on the interior of the frame and on the leaves. I will then go through with the same blue paint that I've been using to highlight the words, give thanks, and then I'll also do the border of this pumpkin in that blue as well. I did go a little lighter on the coat of paint in the words. I kind of went through and I absolutely did not dry brush it, but I did not do a very heavy-handed stroke, and the brush itself was a little bit more on the dry side. However, when I did this edging portion, I made sure that it had a really nice thick coating. I didn't want there to be much of the wood color showing through, whereas in the give thanks, for some reason I just kind of the appeal of it having a little bit more of the wood showing through was just aesthetically pleasing. I had no idea what to do with these leaves, and overall it just seemed almost distracting and too busy. One really cool fact about these is it's paper. I mean, all you have to do is remove the paper and it's a sticky back, and it was surprisingly sticky. So, and it's not heavy, and if for any reason it comes off in the future, just a couple dabs of hot glue and you'll be fine. Simple fix. But the simplicity in this guy too, he's very modern, very clean, and going really well with the orange, navy, and copper colors that I'm doing in my home for fall. Taking another one of those signs and those leftover leaves. I loved the shape of the leaves. I thought they were nice and big. You know, they're not as small as some of the little ones you can get from Hobby Lobby, but yet they're not as huge as the ones from Dollar Tree. And I like that I had a couple different ones, so there wasn't just the exact same style and shape being repeated side by side. So removing the sticky paper backing, I then stuck the leaves to the little wood frame here. It seemed a little boring. It just was missing something. And so I thought by adding one of these orange rub-on pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, it would give it just a little bit of color and contrast. It still wasn't enough. And so I went back through with white paint and I just did the border of this little frame. Now, I found these wood carving tools at Dollar Tree, and this is the first time I'd used them. And what I did is, you can see on the other leaf, I just went through and using some firm pressure, I just drew in the veins of the leaves, and then I went back through with very little stain. I mean, it's just kind of like a little leftover amount of the same stain on my brush, and I went through and I emphasized getting the bristles into the marks where I made the cuts to replicate the veins of the leaf. And it did a really good job. It was pretty subtle. On this leaf here, it didn't show up as well as the first one, but I was fine with it really. Even if it didn't show up, it was just kind of a fun little technique. I was playing with some new tools. Now these little leaves here came in a pack that I got from Hobby Lobby. They're much smaller, but I did like the contrast between the stained wood and the natural wood. And you can see that white border, I think, made such a difference, and it really helped just kind of give it just a little bit more dimension and character. So this project here is another top one for me. It was so much fun and so easy. I was not lucky enough to get my hands on any of the blue trucks that were released. However, the blue and the red were the exact same. They just had pumpkins in them. So I got I got red and green, knowing that if I wanted to or I needed to, I could change the color. So using one of the little wood carving tools, I just scraped off the glitter that was on that portion of the truck, because that wasn't gonna work. Using the exact same blue paint that I've been using throughout all of these projects to keep the color uniform, I painted a solid coat over the truck. Now, this little picture frame I just think is absolutely adorable. I love the shape of the pumpkin. I love the scallops and the detail of it. So I decided, instead of putting a picture in there, I would take it apart, give it a stain. This time I did use the Waverly's antiquing wax. I don't know why, I was just kind of feeling a little bit darker stain on this one. I was going to keep the white background, and so the dark stain in that white background just kind of give a really dimensional, very modern feel, in my opinion. I'm obsessed with rub-on transfers. I swear, I think these are the most amazing thing that Dollar Tree has probably ever come out with. Now, these words, I've used these 100 times. This is not a new pack. I love the pumpkin ones. Again, I have not been able to find them in my area, so my friend Megan was able to find them, and she was so kind to send me a pack. of the fall pumpkins and a couple of the Halloween ones also. Now these stickers I used earlier in a previous video. These came from Hobby Lobby when they were 50% off, and all I wanted to do was add some kind of pumpkin detail to the back of the truck. I did not have any more of the like 3D pumpkin gems. However, even if I did, I know that that wasn't going to be the look that I was going for. And it was one of those projects that just kind of came together little by little, just kind of, oh wait, I have this. Tried it, that worked. I first tried this little maple leaf, didn't like it, so I went to the laser cut one, and I really liked this one. I did a light coat using celery, and not using celery, but the color celery. The truck needed a little bit more detail, so using my paint marker, I went back in and I drew in and colored in the tires and also added in a few details using the white marker just to make everything just kind of stand out a little bit more. Now I'd already stuck the pumpkins down and I drew a line where I wanted the truck to be, so that come this portion where I went to go glue it down, I knew that I was lining it up where I wanted it to be. And that's as easy as that project is. And again, I think it's the simplicity in it that I love. I love that really dense blue and that bright orange working together. And then I'm not too sure if I love the leaf. I definitely wouldn't go without it. I don't know. So I do not sew at all. Don't own a sewing machine. I mean, maybe one day I will. I don't know. I always admire crafters that are so versatile and they can do, you know, sewing and paper crafts and projects and this and that. And it's like, I'm not nearly as versatile. So anyways, I am using my Sherbonder hot glue. It's fabric glue and it works so well. You do not get those like bumps and ridges. Now, even if I didn't have the fabric glue, I would just use regular hot glue. It's really not a big deal. So all I'm doing is gluing down 2 of the 4 sides. The third side is just where I had folded this little guy over, and all I'm doing is making a little tiny pillow. You gotta add that designer's smash right down in the middle, which I just think it's so cute, and it's so teeny tiny, but there's something about having a little tiny pillow on a tray or on shelving displays. I just think it adds that little extra like comfort to your decor and design. I got the fabric at Walmart and it was $1.50. Here is a recap of the projects that we've made today in this video. This is just one that I had a ton of fun with. What I liked most about these is I literally had no plan going into anything. I sat down, I looked at something, and I played around with it. And that's usually when I make the things that I absolutely love the most. I'd love to know which one of these was your favorite. I think I mentioned on at least 2, possibly even 3, that they were my favorite. I just can't pick. I see it and I think you're my favorite. All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. And please remember, just because you're going through something, you can be a work in progress and you can still love yourself. So do just that. Love yourself. Thank you so very much for taking the time out of your day to spend a little bit of it with me and to watch my video. If you loved it, if you wouldn't mind giving me a big thumbs up, it helps my channel incredibly. Please subscribe if you like everything going on. Check my community tab. We got some updates.